Hey everybody, JJ here, back again for another Wednesday of Zoom networking. The young man we have speaking for us today is a heck of a nice guy, really smart, great personality, and someone is I just consider a dear, dear friend. My good friend, Mr. Frank Iglesias. Frank, how are you?
Oh, I'm doing great. How are you today, JJ?
I'm good, my friend. I'm good. Hey, for those that don't know you, what part of the country are you located in?
Based out of Atlanta.
Yeah, I was down there, as you know, we met recently. Man, that's beautiful countryside down there.
Yeah, we love it. And you were up in the mountains, which is a really beautiful part of the country, or not country, the state. Well, the country too.
Yeah,
So,
countryside. Yeah, I was in a place called J, Georgia, for a very interesting training session. Um, so yeah, friend, let's chat about you, my friend. You know, we met through Fortune Builders, an educational platform for real estate, and you're going to share some stuff today about partnerships, which is crucially important. But I wanted to talk a bit about yourself. How did you get started? I mean, when you were in your teens and your 20s, was real estate on the landscape for you? Was something that was part of your life or your family, or did it come later? If it came later, what were you doing in your teens and your 20s? Was real estate on the landscape?
no, I was a music guy. I am a musician, so that's we got into that during the teen years. uh, and went to college for music. And at the tail end of that, one of my roommate's fathers was like, "Hey, check out the IT world." And ironically enough, me and both my college roommates all ended up in IT and did that for a long time. In fact, I even had the privilege of working with one of my roommates for several years. So that was cool. And like so many people, somewhere along the, and I don't recall exactly the message, but I got that invitation to a Rich Dad Poor Dad 3 hour seminar, 2 hour, whatever it was, way back then. And I just sort of went on a whim. I don't even remember what drove me to go, but I did go. And of course, that leads to the 3 day, which leads to buying courses, and off we go.
Cool. Um, Now, when I met you through Fortune Builders, were you a student at the time, or had you actually gotten into coaching? I know that you were highly respected within the community, and everybody knew your freaking name. You know, were you ever doing coaching with them, or were you just recognized because you were actually doing the deal?
Yeah, no, I just did business. I never did coaching for them. I've always been doing deals. Now I've started coaching, like actually more than just an on and off thing here and there, actually starting to really do it. But I've always been in education because back when I went into IT, I still did the music stuff on the side, but I taught. So, and I taught high school and college kids. I did that for 15 years on the side. And then once I went into full-time real estate, what I ended up doing was running two meetings for several years.
There you go.
So, which was effectively a glorified group coaching session, is what it
Yeah,
ultimately was.
yeah. Hey,
But
before we leave music and get into real estate, what kind of music were you playing? A particular instrument, a particular style of music? What's your musical link?
I'm a percussionist, so we play drums, but also mallet percussion, hand percussion, orchestral percussion. So
Cool.
we got into all of that. So it was a variety of styles. I enjoy most styles of music. There are a couple of exceptions, but by and large, most styles are fair game. And it was a good time. It still is, still fun.
Yeah, yeah. I actually played piano as a kid, many years of piano lessons, and played bass in an orchestra, and you know, music. It's nice to have that experience a little bit. This, music. We all love music for the most part. Hey, so as you got into the IT field, then got into real estate. At what point in time did you make the transition full time into real estate?
It was interesting. I worked at a great company, great job, great team, great. And like I said, my college roommate was one of my team members. Great pay, great benefits. Everything was great, and I was bored. And so it just kind of became clear that, you know what, if everything is good and you're bored, it's time to shift. And that's really what it came down to. So we made the shift, and I don't know that it was maybe the way I would recommend people make the shift from corporate life to entrepreneurial life. Probably would have done that a little bit differently, knowing what I know today, but it worked out, so it was okay.
Cool. And did you start like most others with like wholesaling and then single family, or did you go right into something else like lending or multifamily? What was your first taste of the water, so to speak?
Our first property we bought was a buy, fix, and hold. In fact, that's what we did a few times to start. And then we got into some wholesaling after that. But we've always done fix and flip to some degree. And but several years we were really big on wholesaling with a little more buy and hold, a little fix and flip. That then became let's go do big projects in the fix and flip space, which then led to several years of new construction. So we got very well versed at new construction. And so I became a builder. I didn't really plan to become a builder, but I became a builder. And, now after having done all of that, we've become very selective about which projects we'll do. And we've worked with a lot of people over the years, hence our conversation tonight about partnerships, because we've learned a lot. And we've also learned a lot about business that, a lot of times we come into real estate, and I like to say we learn about real estate kind of like it's a be all end all. And I'd be happy to tell everyone it's not. Real estate's just a vehicle where really the fundamentals that we really want to focus on are business fundamentals. And once we get that, real estate actually gets a lot easier when you look at it through the lens of business fundamentals first and foremost.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really changed our perspective of what we do. And when I think about business fundamentals, I look at some of the deals I've done in the past, I'm like, I wouldn't have done those deals. Those deals I would not have done. I don't care if it fit the maximum allowable offer form. It doesn't matter. I wouldn't have done the deal because it didn't meet some fundamental criteria of what sound business looks like. So it's really and we're still evolving. Like we're still evolving.
You mentioned fundamental criteria. I know we're going to get into partnerships and things we should look for, et cetera. But as we segue, what are some of the fundamentals that one would look for in? I mean, when we start, we're all going to buy ourselves. We'll buy into one of many different programs. We buy in by ourselves. We might meet somebody. Hey, why don't you and I join venture? But there's a process to learn how to become better at being in a partnership. But what are some of the initial fundamentals that one would consider, whether they're a new investor, whether they've been around the block 2 or 3 times?
Oh, well, the biggest fundamental I'll tell you, and I see people talking about it on the chat, but at the same time, it's the easiest thing to take for granted. One of the people that I've learned a lot from, he's a 10-figure guy. Okay. And he says 3 words, and I never remember, or not never remember, I always think of what he says now, and I think of it often. And he says, business is people. And that's where it all starts. Business is people. But yet, most real estate training, very little, quite honestly, focuses on this subject of people. We spend countless hours learning our craft.
Yeah.
Insane number of hours on our craft. And it's good time, right? Like we want to learn how to flip, build, rent, short-term, long-term, wholesale, tax, invest, whatever, right? Whatever your cup of tea is. But proportionally speaking, that's really the easy part of business.
Yeah.
So the first fundamental I'd say is people. The second fundamental is really understanding numbers. And when I say know your numbers, I'm not talking about maximum allowable offer or anything like that, or your comps, and those things are all important. But going to your accounting and actually understanding some basic accounting. And so we'll give that to the bookkeeper, the CPA. Extraordinarily massive mistake. And we've learned that the hard way, quite honestly. So I'm telling you that firsthand, we learned that the hard I think it should be one of the first things you learn is some basic accounting fundamentals.
Well,
It
that
doesn't matter if your first. I mean, if your first deal is a wholesale deal, fine. You need to learn a couple of basic things about that. It makes when the numbers understanding the fundamentals of accounting play in, and I'm by no means an accountant, but I had the privilege of listening in a few months ago to a CEO he's bought and sold a ton of businesses, and he actually gave a 3 hour talk on accounting basics in a room of super successful entrepreneurs. He's up there, and it was like, wow, he's going to talk about accounting basics, how to read your financial statement. And this is a room of super successful people. I was like the tadpole, like there's like some seriously successful people. And you get to the end of that 3 hours, and I was like, I just learned more about accounting in 3 hours than I probably did in 15 years of talking to CPAs. And that is not an overstatement.
yeah,
It just gave me such a perspective. I was like, why didn't I learn this before?
yeah,
But it really made me appreciate how just some simple basic concepts explained in a specific light changed the game. And that's what I was saying. I literally came home. I looked at a bunch of deals that I had done, both current and past. And I was like, okay, shouldn't have done that one, shouldn't have that one. That one was great. That I thought that was going to be great, not by a long shot, right? Like it just changed my perspective, and it's been great. It's been a huge plus.
When you talk about those 2 points, I couldn't agree with you more. You know, um, just understanding numbers, understanding a basic accounting sheet. That's obviously huge. Some people aren't good at numbers, but Pace Morby, for example, is really big on the landscape right now. And he tells people that you don't have to do everything. You can hire an acquisitions person, hire a dispo person, hire a paperwork or transaction coordinator. And ideally, if we're good at our relationships, and that's why people are so important, we can find somebody to help us with our numbers. But again, people are so important. Pace talks about, again, hire a dispo manager, hire acquisitions manager, uh, hire an integrator, hire a transaction coordinator. But to get all those people working with one, whether it be myself or you or somebody else, we have to be good with people. We are our own visionary. We're our own business person. And the key to working with others is to bring them into work in cohesion as a team. And, it's one of the things I found these days right now with some of the younger investors is they just come in looking to see who's in their buy box and who they can sell to or buy from. And they want to ring that bell right off the bat. And I equate that to these guys coming in like a scavenger hunt. As we both said, I've said many times, people are so important. I'm not in this for the short haul, but for the long haul. And to, build relationships with as many successful people as I can, surround myself with as many successful people as I can. And, the more we have strong people around us, the more likely we are to not make mistakes, learn from other people's mistakes, and to quicken our ascent to being successful. Let's move on, brother. As you started to make that climb, was there anyone in particular that was like really intricate in your success or really contributed to your growth? Somebody that really, one or two people that really stand out for you, and what kind of role did they play if such a person exists?
I've had a number of coaches over the years. And I'm a huge advocate of you should always have a coach. That you just when I think about the period of time I didn't have a coach, that's when all the mistakes happened. So I'm always like, if you're going to do business, have a coach. We've all heard it. Every successful team, every successful athlete, CEO in business, whatever, they've got a coach, or maybe they call them an advisor or whatever, but they've got that person they're bouncing ideas off of. Is there one in particular? And I have three coaches today. Is there one in particular that stands out above the other? I don't know that I would. I'd have to credit all three, and we'd be here a little while if I had to do that.
Now you mentioned you've got three. What kind of things do people coach you on currently, or have people coach you on in the past? I mean, we've got many investors on the call today that may or may not have a coach, and as people watch this video weeks and months down the line, many new people will be like, what kind of coach should I get? I mean, what type of areas have people coached you in either in the past or currently?
Originally I used to, the coaches were mainly real estate. That was mainly what I did. I did have a little bit of a life coach in the early days here and there, but it was, which was helpful. It was helpful, but it was mostly real estate. But in recent years, meaning the last five, we got away from that. And we really got, so I've got someone that's more of a life discipline type coach. I've got a business coach who's uber successful. I've got a sales coach who's great at what he does. And though between those three, they've opened, especially the business coach, he's opened me up to so many things, to a much, much bigger world in real estate. One of the things I've learned is not only the coaching, but the right coaches will open up your eyes to a much bigger world. That's something I've also really grown to appreciate. Prior, and not that there's anything wrong with real estate coaches, right? You need them, they're good. But it was like I was learning the world of business as if real estate was a be all end all, and it's not. It's just a vehicle, nothing. Yeah. So just having that different perspective, and you've probably heard this, but if you haven't, a lot of times, a lot of our best ideas that we come up with, they don't come from real estate. They come from networking with people in other businesses that give us unique perspectives on how to see the world from a little bit different lens, maybe a radically different lens. And just some amazing conversations come out of those worlds. And quite frankly, it's some of the things I actually enjoy the most.
So, Frank, partnerships, the art of war and love together. Why don't you kind of explain your topic and that aspect of the partnership field?
Well, we'll dive into it on the presentation. Partnerships. Is this a great idea or not? Like, we hear about it all the time in real estate circles. Oh, let's partner, let's JV. You hear it thrown around like a blow pop, right? Like, it's like going to the store and buying a candy bar. It's so easy to do. But is it really? Is it really a great idea, or is it not a great idea? So we're going to explore that a little bit today. And let's see here. And we already sort of hit this. Partnerships are not about the deal. They're about the people. Like, we go into it thinking it's about the deal, and I hear it talked about all the time like it's the deal. It's not the deal. The deal is just the vehicle. It's about the people. So I like to say, are you prepared to ride the love boat and go to war at the same time? Okay? Because that's exactly what's going to happen almost verbatim in every partnership. Okay? And I want to preface this. We're all imperfect people. This presentation, it's an overview of a deeper conversation. Okay? It's not, we're going to do our best to cover it in 15 minutes, but here we go. The love boat phase. Now, before we dive into this, the one thing I want to share is partnerships are great, and they can also be a complete and total epic disaster. Both are 100% fair game. So we're going to dive into the two phases which I described. So first, what I like to call the love boat phase. And this always starts the same, right? There's a shared excitement, and for the purposes of today's conversation, we're going to assume a partnership of two people. Now, it could be more people. It's the same principles if there's more, but we're going to stick with two people just to keep the conversation simple. You got two people, and they're excited about a business venture, an opportunity. Maybe it's a real estate deal. Maybe they want to put a product together. Maybe we want to come together to offer joint services to a community, maybe offer an investment, maybe build a company that does XYZ. Whatever it is, there's always an excitement to start. We're all familiar with it. We've seen it. If you've been around business for any time, it's a very common thing. And one of the things we get excited about is there's a sharing of resources, right? Because nobody has everything at their disposal. Even those that look like they have it all always need help with something. So there's an opportunity to share resources, and that's usually pretty exciting. Another thing that's exciting is what kind of resource? Well, there's context, right? Well, person A knows A, B, C, D, E. Person B knows, the next few letters of the alphabet, and all of a sudden, wow, there's all these things available to us to make things happen, which is great. And I put a real estate example in there: realtors, contractors, inspectors, appraisers, on and on and on. Okay, if you're wholesaling, you always hear people talking about JV. Hey, we'll share buyers, right? Or maybe we'll share lenders or whatever, or maybe even capital. Okay, so, hey, I know someone needs money. I know someone needs money. Da, 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 da. Okay, another thing that's exciting is sharing the workload. Okay, because let's face it, if you've done business for any length of time, you already know you can't do it by yourself. You need help. You need a team, or you need a partner. You need help. You can't do everything. Okay, that's not a scalable business. In fact, it's not even business. It's just a glorified job. So the ability to share the workload in some kind of venture is very exciting. Okay, and we get very excited about this. Okay, we don't have to go it alone. Okay, that's always warm and refreshing. Sometimes, if we're a little more sophisticated, then what we'll do is we'll actually define responsibilities. Well, person A is going to do da 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 da, person B is going to do da 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 da. And now we're really defining it, which we get more excited because now we're getting clarity. And we all know clarity is power. When we have clarity, it's clear. We know exactly what we want to do. And these are all positive things, right? And all these things tend to happen early in the partnership. Okay. Sometimes it's you buy a deal and you're doing this, or maybe it's prepping to buy a deal or start the venture or business or whatever it may be. And if you're really excited, you put it in writing, because now you're actually building security that, oh man, we have got it together because we've got it in writing, we've thought it through, and we've done all this. And so I like to call that the love boat phase, because it's like really like things are clicking, we're having quality conversations, and it just feels like things are going pretty well. And that is usually how it starts. Okay, this phase, if it's a wholesale deal, it could be happening, as little as a day or two. If we're starting a business, it might happen over a few weeks, a few months. But that general excitement of achieving some kind of vision is very real to us, and we're putting a lot of energy into it. But then comes the war. And the war always comes. It just always comes. So what exactly is the war? Okay, the war is, I like to say, it's very simple. It's when something goes wrong. And something will go wrong. It is absolutely inevitable that despite all your planning, something will go wrong. In fact, if there's anything I've learned after 15 years, is nothing ever really goes according to plan. It just never seems to work out that way. And if something actually does go according to plan, you take the time to be extremely grateful and appreciate that, because the next thing you do probably won't be quite that way. So I like to think of partnerships like this. It's the 80-20 rule. 80% about partnerships is about the people, not the deal. Now, if we think about how, and I'm going to pick on real estate for a moment, because that's what I do. Most real estate education, when we talk about let's partner, it's always talking about, well, here's the deal, and here's the numbers, and this and that. And it's always about the deal, the deal, the deal. But we hear very little about the people, the people, the people. But what I've learned is when we do a partnership, 80% of that partnership is not about the deal. It is totally about the people. Totally about the people. Okay. I pulled out a little Bible verse. We're not that like super spiritual here, but I think this is a wonderful verse straight out of the Bible. If a house is divided against itself, it cannot stand. And when you've got a partnership of two people, if there is division, this is not going to end well. If there is division, it is not going to end well. So let's dive in. It is said that most partnerships fail, and I will attest that is probably true. Now, do I have a statistic on that? No, but everybody I've met that talks about partnerships generally agrees most partnerships don't work out. And it is usually very simple because there is a disagreement between people that was simply not handled in an appropriate manner. Okay. It's very rarely the deal. In fact, my wife will tell me, she actually has those little decoration in our house that says everything is figure outable. And that's true. There isn't a whole lot that is not figure outable as long as there's a willing spirit to actually do the figuring out. Okay. So, what I want to share is some consideration for all parties. We need to be, in order for a partnership to work, we need to be willing to do whatever it takes, no excuses type people. Now, it's very easy to say, I'm willing to do whatever it takes. It's very easy to say, oh, yeah, no, I'm a no excuses type person. But when your feet are to the fire and it is scalding hot and all the pressure is on you, are you still that person? And unfortunately, a lot of people find out maybe not quite as much as they thought they would. To be absolutely fair, it's really hard to be a willing to do whatever it takes, no excuses type person. That is not an easy journey. It is not an easy path. And it takes tremendous effort, tremendous energy, tremendous discipline. But it can be done. Okay. So that's one quality. Another quality, and this is one that I share with people, you'll hear a lot of people say, well, I'm not a confrontational type of person. So, newsflash, if you are not a confrontational type of person, do not get into a partnership. Do not pass go. Do not collect $200. Just don't go there. Because in order for a partnership to work, you have to, it is not negotiable. You have to be able to confront people. Now, you have to understand something. I use three words here: honestly, respectfully, transparently. Those are positive words, right? We all appreciate honesty. We all appreciate respect. We all respect transparency. So how does that deal with confronting people? Confronting people generally has a little bit of a negative connotation, like, oh my gosh, we're going to fight. But it's not really about fighting. It's about, can I communicate these qualities, speak openly about these things in a way that not only allows me to speak my mind, so to speak, but do it in a way that it is taken in a positive light. It's taken in a way that is receptive. It's taken in a way that it's like, this is truly open conversation. It's not, oh my gosh, we're going to have a fight. It's, yes, we're speaking in a way that's so open, so respectful, so transparent that it can be received with the same level of respect, transparency, and honesty. So it's not just about being the person speaking. If you're the one on the receiving end, can you receive honesty, respect, transparency in a way that's very, maybe raw is the best word, right? So, it's a two-way street. And that's what we're talking about, confrontation. It's not about fighting. It's about the ability for both parties to be so incredibly raw with each other with pure authenticity that they can come to a resolution of whatever it is and have the conversation that needs to happen. Okay. And then the other thing I put in there is the ability to communicate in person. And I can't emphasize enough in person. Now, in today's world, there's more and more people doing business multi-state across the world. So sometimes that's not realistic. But obviously, in person, you can never replace them. I've met countless people now where they will literally, like, if they got to meet someone, they like get in a plane to go meet them. And you're like, wow. But that's how powerful, because it speaks to the power of that relationship. But if it can't be done, just like we're here on Zoom is incredibly helpful. We're so grateful for what technology has done for us. So we like that. Even the phone works pretty well, but that eye to eye contact just it works absolute wonders. But here's what it's not. It is not text or email. And sometimes phone is woefully insufficient as well. There's a place where phone is great, but it can also be woefully inefficient. But not text, not email. Now, text and email are wonderful tools when used in the right light. Well, what's the light? I like the way Robert Kiyosaki talked about it. It's like the lowest levels of communication. Text and email is great for information sharing. And that's it. It's not a good medium. In fact, I think it's a terrible medium for actually solving real problems. Okay, too much gets lost. And I'm sure we've all experienced it where we've sent that text message and the person on the other end totally took it differently from what we thought they would. And that was not even a serious issue. So imagine when a serious issue comes up and now one of the partners sends a text or email to express their concern. It's incredibly ineffective. In fact, it's actually very effective at making the quality of the partnership degrade. The quality of that partnership can go down really fast when text and email become a primary means of communicating issues that need to be dealt with. Okay. So the question I asked is, are you willing to go to war, also known as walk side by side with the other party, no matter what the issue is, for however long is necessary? And this is why I called the presentation, it's like you're going on the Love Boat and going to war at the same time. Because when you got to deal with these issues, whether it was created internally or many times it has nothing to do with the partnership, it's some kind of external factor that you had no control over, that surprised you because unexpected things happen all the time. Can we have that excitement we had at the beginning, but at the same time rally by each other to walk through those battles together? Can those happen at the same time? I would argue they can, but it takes effort. And sometimes it takes a lot of effort to do whatever it takes, because jointly you will get to the other side together. And I like to think of it like this. It's me versus we, okay? Me kills partnerships. When you've got a partnership of two-person and one person switches into me mode, that thing is doomed. It is doomed to fail. Until they get back to we, it just doesn't have a chance. Whereas we strengthens relationships. Me kills them, we strengthens them. We got to stick to we. And sometimes it's hard to stick to we. Sometimes it's hard, but we got to put in that effort. We got to push ourselves. Your first priority in a partnership is your other partner. Okay. When you're in a partnership, your partner is your first priority because you went into this together. You can almost think of it as like you're each other's number one customer or number one client. You're in this together. We've got to be each other's first priority. And the minute that gets compromised, it becomes extraordinarily difficult to solve problems, much less sustain. Okay. So as I said, everything's figure outable. Are you willing to do your part? Everyone says yes at the beginning, but when your feet are on fire and it seems like the heat is not going away anytime soon, do you still think that way? Do you still act that way? Do you still believe that? Okay. Be brutally honest with yourself. Okay. Because if you're not that person, maybe don't do a partnership. That doesn't mean you're a bad person. It might mean you just got to work a little bit on yourself first. Okay. If the answer is yes, partnerships are a great way to do business. If no, I would advise don't do a partnership. Work on improving yourself first. There is no shame in improving yourself first. None whatsoever. Too many people try out partnerships because it all sounded good, the love boat phase, but they were woefully ill prepared for when the time for war came. Okay. They just weren't prepared. And they're good people. Okay? We're not even talking about is it a good person, a bad person. It's not about being a good or bad person. It's just they just weren't prepared, so that they did not understand how to handle it. And if neither of partners have coaches, then it magnifies, usually in the negative direction, even faster. Okay. Be willing to put partnership and details in writing. When you meet at the beginning, talk about what could go wrong. Like, really be brutally honest. What could go wrong? Okay. And one thing that can always go wrong is the deal just doesn't work, or the business fails, or whatever the case may be. The product doesn't sell at all. It's a dud. Okay. This is a conversation that needs to happen at the beginning. It could go wrong. The market could crash on a real estate deal, and all of a sudden, that deal that you thought was great when you go to sell is worth 20% less. I actually had that, came across a deal like that recently, where someone brought me a deal. I looked at when they bought the deal. When they bought the deal, it looked good. But if they try to sell it today, it's a 25% loss, which was kind of amazing to me that there was an area that lost that much money in our market, but there is. And I was like, wow, not a fun place to be. Okay. How will the worst case scenario be handled? You want to talk about the worst case scenario, the real worst case scenario at the beginning. It goes a long way to preparing you. Okay. Talk about it deeply, not superficially. Okay. Learn what the other party is really willing to do or give up when the worst case occurs. Okay. Like, you really want to know that. What is the other party really willing to do? What are they really willing to give up? It's a powerful conversation to have at the beginning. Okay. And it's not a comfortable conversation. It's usually not a comfortable one, because you got to really push each other to figure this out. But it just does an amazing job for laying a solid groundwork. So slow down when you get into these things. Slow down. Put in the time to learn about the other person you're considering doing business with. Remember the 80-20 rule. Partnerships are about people. The deal is just a vehicle. You want to make sure that the person you're in the car with is the person you want to be with when that storm hits. Because it will hit. It always seems to hit. And I want to give you a reminder. We're all imperfect people. Always strive to grow. You're not going to get it right every time, but you keep pushing. Everyone grows at their own pace, but always keep moving. And one of the things I want to share, and I'm going to go back one slide. This was not in the slides, but it actually came from a meeting I just came from, where I was listening to someone that's a bit of a mentor. And he said something that I thought was really powerful. So I didn't get it in here because I just heard it like 20 minutes ago. But he says, you never have it all figured out. Thank goodness you never have it all figured out, because this is where the power of us comes in. Okay. Ensure every partner you deal with is open to the power of us through every up and down you will experience. Okay. Taking imperfect actions, yep, that's great, but use this power of us through those imperfect actions all the time. And never forget, humility listens. And I just love that. Humility listens. So, with that, we can hop into questions. Feel free to screenshot this, or JJ could send it to you, but it's got all our socials. I've got a podcast, website, email. If you want to hang out with me for 15 minutes, I do free 15-minute coaching sessions with people. Just text me or email at that number, and I'll be happy to hang out with you for 15. And if you happen to be interested in a partnership deal, I got one available right now. We can even talk about that. So with that, JJ.
I am back. Man, that was some gold nuggets and dynamite you've been dropping in there. All very, very important aspects of the game, so to speak. And obviously the good part about it is this: we've got this on YouTube, it's recorded, and we can review this stuff over and over again. Now I'm gonna just open it up really quick while we got folks here. Does anybody have any questions? They want to raise their hand or ask a question, anything at all? Mario, you are on with Frank Iglesias. What's your question?
Hey, Frank, thank you again for it. Great talk. Our question is, we've done our love boat, or at least I've gone through that. First of all, I am perfect. I keep trying to tell my partners, and my significant other, but never goes well. Um, but on a serious note, the question is, how do you determine when to cut losses on a partnership? I've experienced several different partnerships where I regret getting to become a partner. Is there four components that you recommend to determine whether partnership, like when I do a partnership, I don't merge an LLC together. I have 50%, they own 50%, and I do that for about a year to see a marriage and, see how it goes through under pressure before I do it. But do you have a specific um, game plan or steps to determine whether the partnership's going to continue?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. We've had a number of great partnerships over the years, but we've had some that didn't work out. And the number one thread I've seen in the ones that don't work out, and I mentioned it, was when one of the partners goes from when their language switches from we to me. When the language switches from me to we, this is not fair to me. This is unreasonable to me. And it's not, remember, we talked about having that confrontational conversation where we're being honest, open, transparent, but in a spirit it's not a fighting spirit. It's a, hey, we're just being authentic with each other. I'm not talking about that, because in that scenario, you could say, well, maybe, you can have that conversation. I'm talking about when the person, and I'll tell you the most common time I've seen it, someone sends a text message that they're mad, and you get the text message that looks like it belongs in a chapter out of a book. And I'm just like, it would have been easier to call, right? But we've all seen them, right? The crazy long text message that you don't even want to read it so long. And they're upset. And, that's a clear indication usually that they've switched to a me mindset. Once someone switches to a me mindset, now we're all imperfect people, right? What did I say? Humility listens. So, of course, I'm going to give that the opportunity to resolve, because sometimes we just go, bleh, right? Because we're in a bad mood, bad day, we vent, we say something we wish we hadn't said, and we were just in a bad spot at that moment, right? So we want to acknowledge that sometimes people just make a mistake, because we all do. But if it's not one of those scenarios, and it's become, and it usually will become pretty clear that there's not really that desire to improve things, that it really is the me spirit's taken hold. At that point, it's pretty much, I realize, okay, it's time to get out. It's time to get out. Because the reality is you can't change another person, right? We can't force them to change. We could try to influence them to change. But in my experience, what I've found is if someone switches to a me mindset, again, we're going to give them the benefit of the doubt just to start, because we want to see it, can it be reconciled? But if it's clear they're not looking for reconciliation, you can't put a square peg in a round. And some people, quite frankly, don't want to. I mean, we've all heard of victim mentality. It's very real. Society today has made everybody an armchair quarterback expert at every single subject on the planet via social media. So that has made it a little bit harder, where people take these hard lines so fast, and you're just like, wait a minute, we need some conversation here. But I think that's the best way to sum it up, is once the me mindset is starting to take root and not let go, it's probably time to start thinking exit sooner than later.
Thank you, Mario. Always good to see you. You know what, Frank? I can't agree with you more about the when they start going to me instead of we. Everybody talks about people giving into their communities. People talk about this book about the go-giver. And, what's important is that we help the people that are around us. And if we're going to work with someone, that we help to make the team better. But when someone gets so focused and concerned about why things aren't going their way, things are going to go up and down. But if someone's going to stand around and just have their hand out, they want to ask about me all the time. That's probably going to be someone that we don't want to have a long-term partnership with.
No, relationships with people that have a me mindset are unsustainable. And I think all of us, to some degree in our life, have had a period where we had a bit of a me mindset. I don't think it's bad if someone has a period of that, because if you don't have it, then you can't appreciate how to grow from it. Okay. Okay. Everybody is a little bit selfish about something. I understand that. But do you live there? Like, is that your operating manual 24/7, 365? And for some people, it is. We have a name for those people, toxic. Okay. Because it's always about them. Mm-hmm. And the reality is that nothing could be further from the truth. The reality is the we mindset, the we approach to partnerships, it takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of work. It's not like, oh, let's do it. We'll be good. We'll be friends. Everything's great. No, I mean, we takes a lot of work. And it almost always takes a lot more than you think it's going to take going in. You think going in, you're prepared, and then you get in there, you're like, oh, well, man, I got to do all this extra work. It's not really extra work. It's just we underestimated how much work it really takes.
Let me ask you, when it comes to looking for the right partner, I mean, we get told all the time, find someone whose strengths are your weaknesses. You want to be you want to have opposites to come together to bring different things to the table. But is there a way that you recommend that people go about screening other people? Obviously, we have to date to some extent, right? We have to try it out for a while. But there are certain questions we should ask, or how do we screen people before we decide that we want to get into this? I mean, do we ask what their prior experiences are? How many deals have you done? Do you have any references? Well, what are the things that one might present to qualify or vet out potential partners?
Yeah, no, great question. The first thing I would say is always be a continual student of people. And the reason I say that is, if you're more of an introverted person, like I grew up more an introverted person, and I would literally tell people, I'm not a people person. Well, here's a little news flash. If you're a business owner, you have to be a people person. Now, understand, being a people person doesn't mean you have to be that social butterfly that's the life of the party that gets out. That's not what we're saying. But you've got to be good and committed to always getting better at how to communicate with people, which is not easy by default for a lot of people, especially if you're more introverted, you grew up, you were quiet, or even worse, you were told you were a quiet person. I was told I was shy growing up. Guess what I started believing? I was shy, and I became that person. Now, hearing me talk today, I don't sound like I'm a shy person, but that's how I grew up.
Me too.
Yeah. Did my mother mean wrong when she said that? No, she did the best she could and so forth and all that. But sometimes going back to our childhood, we bring some traits forward that impact us. And we might be in our 30s when we fix it. We might be in our 60s. I mean, who knows? But the point is, once we recognize it, we got to change and we got to adapt to figuring out people. We got to be people. We got to know how to do people.
Yeah.
So now, how can we make that more practical? Right. So to get to the last part of your question, when I speak with people, I'm not a fan of superficial conversations. They have their place, right? The chit chats, nothing wrong with that. But I want to get to the meat first. If someone's uncomfortable getting to a deeper conversation relatively quickly, guess what? I already know I'm probably going to have discomfort working with them. Okay. And that doesn't mean I need to know all their life secrets in 5 minutes. That's not what I'm saying. But I want to know that someone is comfortable having some heavier conversations much sooner than later. Because if they're not comfortable with that, what do you think is going to happen when your feet are on fire?
Oh, yeah.
So they got to be comfortable having a tougher conversation. They got to. I want to find out, are they comfortable talking about uncomfortable subjects?
Yeah.
Okay. Nobody wants to talk about what happens if the market drops 25% on a real estate deal. Nobody wants to talk about it, but we need to talk about it.
You know, one of the things I encounter frequently in dealing with new investors is, people want to make money in real estate and they want to get into the game. And now they find they are faced with talking to other people. Oh my gosh, surprise. And a lot of what our group focuses on, my group focuses on, networking group, is how do we talk to others? How do we start that conversation? It's progressive. You're talking about how to get into the deep end of the pool. That's like level 10. But some people are just getting used to level 1, 2, and 3. And polishing up our skills, polishing up our rap, working on an elevator pitch, learning how to be more comfortable, not just how to talk to other people, but how to be more comfortable talking to other people. Talking to someone of your level, of your experience, people better have their game in place, because it sounds like Frank doesn't have time for the new guy. And of course, we always make some time for the new guys, but we want to see who's ready to rock and roll. And there's a lot of us out there that are really, really busy, and we need to do some screening. Grant, wonderful. You are on with Frank Iglesias. What's your question?
Hey, thank you. Frank, my question is, what advice do you have for husband and wife business partners?
Husband and wife business partners. Ooh, that's a common scenario, right? It's a common scenario. So my wife helps us in our business, but this is not her thing, right? Her thing is she's a teacher. Okay. But does she help in our business? Yeah, she does. And when I think about your question, I really think about it more from her perspective. And that is, can you turn it off? Do you both have the ability to turn it off? Because at the end of the day, businesses fail. Okay. Not every business, in fact, most businesses don't succeed. Okay. Majority of businesses don't even turn a profit. Okay. Those are statistical facts. Okay. So you've got to know going in, hey, first and foremost, you married each other to be husband and wife, not to be business partners. So keep the main thing the main thing. For my wife and I, we're Bible believing people. So for us, it's our faith. Everybody may not have our belief structure though. So whatever your belief structure is, we got to keep the main thing the main thing. And that is, we're husband and wife first. If the business does great, wonderful. We still got to keep the main, because we don't want the success of the business. Let's say the business is wildly successful. You don't want the success of that business changing the relationship of husband and wife because of a third, because the business is really a third party to the transaction, if you think about it. If the business is wildly successful or fails, the main thing still has to be the main thing, which is each other. And that's, again, easy to say, easier said than done, sure. And that's where the coaching comes in, having someone to coach you along and say, stay focused. Don't let a business screw up affect something that is infinitely more valuable than that business ever will be. That business could be the next Amazon. But if you lose your spouse, was it worth it? I think most people know what they'll probably say to that question. Are there exceptions? There might be. But I've had to learn, and we've been married 25 and a half years. The business was my baby, right, for a while. But then when the tough time came, it was like, okay, it's just a business. If it all went away, I've been married 25 and a half years, and I intend to get to 26 and 27 and 30 and 40 and 50 and so forth. I'll leave you with this thought on that question. When we celebrated our 25th anniversary, we actually went to visit the pastor that married us. We actually went back to the town we got married in. It was a really cool experience. Went back to the church we got married in. It was really cool. And, of course, a lot of memories come back. And we sat down with the pastor. And the first thing that struck me was he told me him and his wife were married for 63 years. And then his wife, super excited, like a little kid. She was like a teenager. She's like, but we've been together 68. And I asked him, hey, we've been married 25 years. So obviously your advice worked, right? We're still here. What's your advice for the next 25 years? And he said to me, just keep doing what you're doing and get better at it. He's like, if you've lasted 25 years, you already know what to do. You just have to get better at it. And so many times we're looking for like the next thing, or if you're in a partnership, you're in a business with your wife, and maybe it's not working, or maybe it is working, but you're looking for the next thing, the next opportunity to grow it, expand it, this, that, and the other. When in reality, first and foremost, like my pastor told us, hey, just get better at what you're doing. Get better at doing husband-wife. That's the main thing. That's the main thing. So when you keep that perspective, it will forces both of you, push yourselves to keep business, as important as it is, in its proper place. Keep it in its proper place. It's important. It might be critically important, but it'll never be so critically important that it should take the place of the main thing, which is each other.
Thank you, Frank. Very insightful.
Grant, as I listened to Frank's answer, our topic today is for partnerships. There's no more important partnership than a marriage. And I've not been married, so I'm not going to speak from that level of experience because I don't have it, but from a business standpoint, it's always good once in a while to get together with your coworkers, with your business partner, get out, shoot around the golf, go play some pool, go bowling, have dinner, have a little interaction that's away from the workplace that maybe you guys can just sort of gel into a little bit more interpersonal camaraderie. Same goes, you hear it all the time, husband, wife, we should have a date night once a week, once every other week, once a month. Are we busy? People are busy with taking care of their kids and their parents and just the family and, young couple just taking care of their own responsibilities. But, maybe every couple of weeks or once a month, have that date night. Once a month, your wife, guess what? She becomes your girlfriend. You're off to the movies or dancing, to continually keep it fresh, just like in business. Continually keep it fresh, continually do things that allow for the bonding and the building of rapport. So that's just me from a bipartisanship from the outside there. But hey, Grant, thanks for joining us today, my friend.
Absolutely.
Good to see you. Good to see you. So Frank, I'm going to ask you two more questions. You've got some great bombs. I'm sure people are going to be watching this on YouTube weeks and months down the line. If people want to get a hold of you, continue questions, getting to know you, what's the best way? You mentioned you're doing coaching now. What's the best way for people to reach you? Is it your MySpace page? Is it your TikTok? I've seen your MySpace page. It's pretty sharp.
Yeah, it's So it was that last slide in the presentation. You can reach out to me on social media, phone number, email, but again, we're talking about relationships here. A phone is always the best first way. People reach out to me all the time, but I tend to gravitate first and foremost to the people that took the time to actually pick up the phone.
Exactly.
Because that's a lot of times it's just, are they going to be more serious? Not necessarily, but a lot of times they are. I'd say more often than not, they are.
And not only that, but they've made more of a personal effort. And it's so easy to send a Facebook message, a text message, and be very impersonable. Wow, new word. Impersonal. But I got a puppy here trying to climb into my lap. The best way is to pick up the phone, guys. Pick up the phone, and I usually say, if you're going to pick up the phone and call somebody, whether it's Frank or anybody else, text the person first. Text them, send them a message, introduce themselves. Hi, this is so-and-so. I've heard your name off JJ's Zoom call. I'm going to be giving you a call. I just want to let you know that when the number pops up, it's me. So even if you're going to reach out with a phone call, please text someone in advance. introduce yourself, let them know who you are, and reach out. Last question for you, Frank.
Mhm.
I've got a networking group, and I talk about networking all the friggin' time, the importance of building relationships, and I think after a while I become the talking head. But in your opinion, someone who's been in this game a long time, you're very accomplished, very successful, you've done countless projects, been in this for decades, not just years. Every education platform has a Facebook page for their community, Fortune Builders, Sub2, Astro Flipping, all of them. Each of them have brand new investors coming into their education community, as well as experienced investors coming into their educational community, all at one point being new to Facebook or being new to using Facebook for a business tool.
Mhm.
For the real estate investor who's now using Facebook in particular as a business tool, what's the importance of networking to the success of one's business? And what's the importance of joining a group like mine, a networking group, to the success of someone's business?
So, social media is really an interesting animal today. So, we'll focus on Facebook for a moment. Social media has allowed us to connect in ways we never dreamed of years ago, right? Like we talk with people across the country and across the world like they're sitting right next to you sometimes. So from that aspect, technology has done some wonderful things. So the real question becomes, I'd say twofold. One, make sure you're in groups that focus on adding value. There's a lot of groups out there that, quite frankly, are more like pitch sessions. Not that there's anything wrong with that. Like there's a place for that. So that's not a negative. I want to be clear. It's just when you're talking about relationships, is that the place where you're going to build them? Well, it can be if you intend to reach out to everybody pitching something, then you could do that. But you have to put in the work to actually do that.
Yeah.
Okay. Or there's groups that they don't want you pitching things. It's all about community and adding and helping each other out. And in those communities, what I say is, well, how do the best way to build a relationship, in my opinion, is how do I add value?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, adding value means like someone invariably asks a question and then simply answering their question, but not answer it like a quick little one sentence thing. Because when we give a one sentence answer, what happens 99% of the time? There's a follow-up question, right? There's almost always some kind of thing. But rather take a moment and really answer a question. And really answering a question might be, your response might be 5, 6, 10 sentences long. It's a thorough answer. It's a thoughtful answer. It's one that people will read it and go, oh, they really took the time to think about that. And it'll resonate with them.
That's
okay.
key.
So thoughtful answers, because some people, they're trying to be nice or they're trying to answer a question, but they almost come across as short. Some people are even belligerent, which I never really understood. Like, what are you really adding when you do that? Or they get really opinionated. It doesn't matter. Nobody cares. What people care about is, are you adding value to the conversation? And the way to add value, at least there's other ways to do it, but the easiest way is when someone asks a question, give a nice, thoughtful, thorough answer.
Yeah.
Because that resonates with people. And I've had people that will write me after the fact, just so they'll DM me and be like, thank you. Hey, I appreciate you sharing. And if there's an opportunity for me to introduce, and I'll give an example. I could go on a group and someone says, hey, I'm looking for a closing attorney in Georgia. So I can come in there and go, well, there's a number of attorneys, blah, blah, blah. I'm happy to introduce you to a couple if you like. Please DM me and I'll be happy to do that. And then what happens? I say usually because some people, I think they're so surprised that someone would do that, they don't do anything. They're like, oh, is that real? Is that spam? But more often than not, people will literally DM me and go, hey, thanks for answering. Can you do that? Now, there's another piece of this equation, because especially if you're the one asking. So sometimes I'll make the introduction and people will be gracious and be thankful, and the person I introduce, and everybody's good. But if someone takes the time to introduce you to someone, please make sure you thank them. Because every now and then you see someone that doesn't thank you for it, and then if they ask you again, you're not going to be as motivated to help them. Just simple human decency.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. You're so dead on. Hey, Frank, I really thank you so much for being on the call today. Guys, don't go away. We're going to do breakout room shortly. If you guys are watching on YouTube right now, please click the little like button, like Frank's video. Please put some comments in the comment section about what your takeaways were, what you liked, how I can improve to become better at bringing you content each week. I want to thank you guys for joining us, whether you're on the call live or watching on YouTube. If you're on the call right now, we are about to go to breakout rooms. Do not go away. Frank, as far as the folks that are watching on YouTube or even been on the call, we'll see everybody down the line in the virtual world of social media, right?
I'm there. I'll be there later tonight.
There you go. There you go. Hey, stick around, my friend. We're going to go to the breakout rooms. Everybody else on YouTube land, thanks for joining. And we'll see you soon with more from Flip Side Up with JJ. See you soon.